right, Mr. Brennan, whenever you're ready.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Have you and I met before?
No, sir.
This is our first time speaking.
Yes, sir.
Sir, you say that your memory from that night is very strong. Would it be fair to say that before today, you've talked about this case many times?
Yes.
You've interviewed with different law enforcement people as well as civilians and attorneys, haven't you?
Correct.
I have not been one of them.
No, you have not.
And is it fair to say that when you've recounted that night as far as times and what you saw, many times your memory has changed? Is that fair to say?
It has not.
You spoke to a private investigator on behalf of the defense shortly after that night.
Yes.
Was that the first time that you spoke to somebody about what you had seen or not seen?
Yes.
That is the first time?
Yes.
Inevitably, over time, you have given statements to at least 4 different people, correct?
Correct.
And you've testified in court under oath?
Correct.
During the pendency from that night until today, it's fair to say there are many times where you have been intimidated, isn't it?
No.
You've been threatened.
Nope.
You were aware, sir, that you were being threatened by an online blogger to expose you?
I was not.
You're saying as you sit here today, you have no awareness in the history of this case that you were being threatened by an online blogger?
I was not threatened by an online blogger.
Was the online blogger threatening or saying that he would expose you and tell personal things about you if you weren't helpful?
He was not threatening.
Let's remove the word threatening. Was the person communicating and making clear to you that if you didn't testify in a certain way, there would be some consequence to you?
Objection. Can we have a time frame, please?
Any time from when you first spoke to the private investigator until today, were there communications made to you by an online blogger that there would be consequence for you if you didn't testify in a way that was acceptable to them?
No.
You listened, of course, didn't you, to podcasts that were about you?
I did not.
People told you about them.
Yes, they did.
When friends told you about them, you knew who that person was that was making those claims, correct?
Correct.
You were well aware of the person had a very strong and large social media presence.
I didn't know how large or what his presence were, but yes, I knew he had a blog.
Well, you know now because you follow that blogger now, don't you?
I do follow him, yes.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
I did not.
And in following that blogger, you know full well the power that person has to get attention from the community to harass, correct?
Yes.
And so during the pendency of this case, not only were you aware that you were being pressured to testify a certain way, you also knew there'd be consequences if you didn't. Isn't that true?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
The premise of that question is not accurate.
So he can answer it.
You knew there was pressure for you to testify a certain way in this case, didn't you?
I did not know I was being required to testify a certain way. I was also at the time dealing with the loss of my wife. I was not paying any attention to any social media.
Sorry for your loss, but you are aware during the pendency of this case that there has been pressure on you to testify in a certain way. Isn't that fair to say?
No,
Sir, you received a call from that blogger, didn't you?
I did.
And during that call, did you know the person was recording you?
I did not.
You later learned that the person recorded you.
I did not.
Do you know that your conversations were spread throughout the community online?
I was.
Sir, some of those communications or inquiries were claims that you would be exposed for personal matters if you didn't testify a certain way, weren't they?
No.
Inevitably, you've met this person, haven't you?
I've seen him. I haven't met him.
Have you ever spent time with him?
No, I have not.
Still a follower of that blog.
I am.
When you follow the blog, do you read anything or do you watch it?
No, I don't do much anything towards the blogger.
As you follow it, you can see there are oftentimes articles about you.
No,
Haven't you ever been encouraged to do the right thing?
no,
Haven't you ever been celebrated after you've testified in a way favorable for one
Yes.
side or the other?
yes,
And so when you were being celebrated, that certainly took off any pressure that there would be consequence, didn't it?
Objection.
Ask it differently.
When you were celebrated for testifying a certain way, did you find that to be encouraging?
Objection.
I'm going to allow it.
I did find it to be encouraging,
Did
but
you?
I did not want it. I don't think I deserved it. All I was doing was my job and telling the truth.
Did you enjoy the attention that you got?
I did not.
Did you pose in photographs with people who support one side or the other?
I did.
And when you were in those photographs, are you saying that you didn't enjoy the attention that you were receiving?
I did not. Again, I was trying to be polite and trying to avoid any confrontation that may come from something if I said no.
Well, did anybody from the district attorney's office ever suggest they would confront you or punish you if you didn't testify a certain way?
No.
How many friends contacted you about what was being said before you testified, the pressure? How many people told you about that?
I couldn't tell you. All my friends were telling me.
So you were hearing a lot of noise or information from your friend group and community about what was being said about you.
Yes.
And this was before you testified at the first trial, sir.
This was before.
Sir, you work hard, don't you?
I do.
You work many different jobs.
I do.
You try to be a good citizen.
I do.
You are not looking for attention.
I am not.
It was brought to you.
It was brought to me.
You wish you never had that attention, don't you?
Yes.
Because you just want to live your life the way you want to live it rather than have people you don't know attacking, criticizing, or intimidating you.
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Could you repeat that, please?
So would it be fair to say that you simply want to live your life the way you've been living it without outside people attacking or pressuring or threatening you?
Yes.
On June 15, 2023, you were contacted by the defense private investigator, weren't you? And you may not know the dates. Were you contacted twice by the private investigator?
I would need to know what time frame we're looking at.
Fair enough. By the way, the blogger that I speak of, do you know if he is friendly or supports one side over the other?
I know he is friendly towards one side, yes.
Okay. The side sitting in the back of the room?
I would say the defense team.
You've interacted with a private investigator hired by the defense.
Yes.
Have you also interacted with any of the attorneys?
Yes.
Which attorneys have you interacted with?
Mr. Yannetti.
Have you contacted or have you spoken to any other attorneys other than Mr. Yannetti?
Just Mr. Yannetti.
How many times have you spoken to Mr. Yannetti?
Again, what are we talking? First trial, this trial?
The entire time from that night until today. Can you remember how many times that you've spoken?
About 5 times.
How many times have you gone in to be interviewed by him?
4 times?
During those interviews, were they spaced out over the course of this case?
Yes.
What was the purpose of those interviews?
To go over my testimony.
When you went over testimony, were you ever shown prior testimony?
Yes.
Were you shown prior reports?
No.
Were you shown a prior investigator's report?
Yes.
Were you shown a prior report by a law enforcement agency that is not the state police and not Canton?
Not by Mr. Yannetti. I saw that first document for the first time during the first trial.
When you were discussing your testimony, was there a discussion about the fact that the times that you gave the private investigator were different than the report from that law enforcement agency?
Could you repeat that question, please?
When you were preparing the trial in those meetings, was it brought up, did you discuss that there was a difference in your memory, or at least in the reports, between what you told the defense private investigator and what you told that other law enforcement agency?
No.
Were you aware that there was a difference between the different statements attributing your memory as to time?
The first trial, yes.
When you were with the defense preparing for trial, did you go over your testimony?
Yes.
Did you go over questions and answers?
Yes.
Were you ever subjected to a make-pretend cross-examination about issues that were important in this case?
No.
Were you ever pointed to any particular issues that were important to talk about in this case?
No.
When you did the questions and answers, were they written down or just a conversation?
Can you repeat that one, please? I'm sorry.
When you went through the questions and answers in preparing, practicing for your testimony, were they written down?
So ask it differently.
When you were preparing for your testimony, were the questions and answers written down, or was it just speaking?
Just speaking.
Those 4 times that you met, is that a guess, or was it 4 times?
It was about 4 times, yes.
Could it have been more?
No.
And during those 4 times, was there anything different other than going through questions and answers about testimony and preparation? Was there any other subjects you talked about?
There were none.
Did you ever receive any compensation, sir?
I received none.
Do you know whether people were sending you compensation that you didn't receive?
No.
You don't know?
I never received anything.
Were you given anything to bring home with you so that you could remember past testimony or some of the questions and answers that were going to be asked?
No.
How long were your meetings in preparation for your testimony?
About 45 minutes to an hour?
Were they all about the same time, or were they different? When you came into court last year, it's fair to say this is after you became aware of essentially being targeted, correct?
Objection.
You can answer that if you can. Can you answer that, Mr. Loughran?
I can. I don't ever felt like I was being targeted.
This was after you received all the information from your friends and people in the community that you were being attacked.
I'll allow that.
Again, I don't feel like I was being targeted.
Are you concerned after this case what happens with the blogger that you follow?
No.
You talked about your meeting with the private investigator. The first time you met him, do you remember that meeting?
Yes.
Do you remember where you met him?
I met him at my place of employment.
Did you go anywhere with him that day?
No, I did not.
You had a conversation with him and you spoke about what you had remembered from that night?
Yes.
Do you remember when you spoke to that private investigator, you weren't sure how many times you went up and down Fairview that night? That you had said 2 or 3?
No, I told him I went up at 2:30 at 2. I told him at 3:30 I went up 2. Went up and down. And I told him about 3 hours later I went up and down. I went down and wasn't able to go around the police cruisers and had to turn around at Carriage Lane.
You mentioned that you believe you told the private investigator that you went up and down at 2:30. Do you remember when you spoke to the private investigator, you actually said 3 o'clock?
I don't remember the 3 o'clock.
May I approach?
Yes.
And before I do you remember you said that when you went on your second pass, it was around 3:15?
I told him I went up Fairview between about 2:40 to 2:45, and I said about 45 minutes later, I went for the second time.
Okay. Now you had said 2:30, and you just now said 2:40 to 2:45, and then you said 45 minutes later.
Yep.
Okay. Do you remember telling the private investigator that when you think, or you said you saw a Ford Edge, you were actually still on Cedar Brook, not on Fairview, passing by it, but you saw it from the street at Cedar Brook? Do you remember telling him that?
I
Sorry,
don't remember.
Cedar Crest.
Secret. I don't remember ever saying that.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
I'll show you a copy. This is a report that you didn't write, so I don't want you to read it. I want to show it to you and see if it helps remind you of what you told the private investigator that day. You can look at any part of this, but what I'm asking you is whether or not you remember telling the private investigator that when you saw the car, you weren't passing on Fairview, you were up on Cedar Crest. That's the question I'm asking. So I'd ask you to look at whatever part you want, but I'm going to point out the part to you. When you're done, don't answer, just look up, and then I'll get to ask you some questions about your memory, okay?
Okay.
So I directed to this part, but you can look at any part that you want, sir. Are you done, sir?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, do you now remember when you were speaking to the defense investigator about seeing a car? You said that about 3:30 to 4 a.m. when you were plowing Cedar Crest Road, you looked toward Fairview Road and saw a small SUV parked in front of the house. Remember telling the PI that?
I never remember telling him that.
When you spoke to law enforcement, not the Canton police or the state police, you understood it was important to be as accurate as possible?
Yes.
And you understood, at least with that law enforcement agency, if you misled them in any way, it could be up to a 10-year penalty?
Yes.
When you spoke to them, did you take that interview very seriously?
Yes.
Tried to be as precise and accurate as you could?
Yes.
And when you spoke to them, obviously, like anybody, you had in mind that there could be serious consequences if they felt misled.
Yes.
You try to be honest with them,
Yes.
provide them your best memory in good faith.
Yes.
And this was shortly before, well, actually, this was May 24th, 2023, correct?
Correct.
When you met, there was more than one person there from this agency?
I believe so.
Was there potentially two?
There was two.
And when you met with them, they asked you about when you began working that night.
Yes.
You told them 11:30 to midnight.
I never told them that.
And so as you sit here today, your memory is you did not tell those law enforcement agents that you began work at 11:30 to 12?
We had a 2:30 start time.
I understand, but I'm asking you,
I never told them. It was always 2:30 start time.
when you spoke to them, do you remember telling them the first time you were out near the area was midnight?
Nope. No.
When you spoke to those law enforcement personnel, were they taking notes?
I believe so.
Have you ever seen their report?
The first trial I did, yes.
Who showed you that report?
It was shown to me by Prosecutor Lally.
You think Prosecutor Lally showed you that report?
It was shown to me.
And do you remember telling those two law enforcement personnel that you believe that there were emergency vehicles, ambulances, or police cars in front of Fairview at 3 to 3:30 a.m.?
I do not.
Are you saying that you did not say these things to them, or are you saying that that's not your memory?
That's not what I said.
And so you're saying that's wrong. You're denying
Correct.
you made those statements.
Correct.
At the time they say that you told them there was emergency vehicles there at 3 a.m., that is the same time that you told the PI that you saw the Ford Edge, around 3:30 to 4, correct?
About 3:30 is when I saw the Ford Edge.
It was dark out that night, wasn't it?
Correct.
There are no street lights down near that flagpole area of 34 Fairview, is there?
Yes, there is.
Okay. Was it on that night?
I can't tell you honestly if it was.
You testified at trial? I'm sorry, at a proceeding last year?
I testified that there were. It was asked to me that there were not any streetlights, and I answered it in the affirmative way. And living in that neighborhood, I saw that there were actual streetlights.
You testified at a proceeding last year, didn't you?
Yes.
I mean, you testified at the proceeding. Did you meet anybody from the defense close in time to that proceeding?
I don't know, when we met, how close to the proceedings it was.
Do you remember being prepared before you went into trial last time?
Yes.
By
Yannetti, excuse me.
Do you remember telling the defense private investigator that you made your final pass at 6:30 a.m.?
I remember I told him it was about 3 hours going down Cedar Crest and was not able to go to the end of Fairview due to the first responders.
At trial last year, do you remember saying it was 5:30?
I did.
And today you had said about 6:15.
Yes.
Okay. You weren't timing anything on a watch for times, were you?
I was not.
You were not accounting in any way for time whatsoever when you were out that night, were you?
No, I was not.
When you're providing times, are you trying to use your best memory?
Yes.
Do you recognize that you have a differing memory on times of what you did that night?
No.
You talked about your view from the tow truck and that you have a bunch of lights on it. On the tow truck, you had mentioned that your vision to the side was 5 to 6 feet.
Can you rephrase that, please?
Yes, of course. You said when you were driving your tow truck, you could see forward and sideways.
Okay. I don't want to be... I don't drive a tow truck.
My apologies. My apologies. You're snowplow.
Thank
You
you.
said you can see forward and sideways.
I can see forward, I can see diagonal, and I can see right to left.
When you look right to left, you said you could see about 5 feet.
Correct.
Do the lighting conditions affect how well you can see?
No.
Does the weather?
Yes.
When you're plowing, are you ever looking at the street in front of you?
Yes.
Are you looking at people's front yards?
Yes.
And so, what did you see as far as the front door of the Albert House that night? Was it open or closed?
It was closed.
With lights on?
I can't answer that for sure. I don't remember if there were lights on.
How about the neighbors on the left? Were you looking at their front line?
Yes.
Did you see if their lights were on?
Again, I didn't recognize if their lights were on.
Do you look at every neighbor's front lawn up to the door as you're driving in the snow plowing?
I look to the right and to the left, and my eyes will graze to the yard. Yes, I will look there.
You were saying you have a specific memory of looking at the Albert front yard all the way to the door. Do you have a specific memory of looking at the other neighbors' yards to their door?
Minimum law,
Can you repeat that, please? I'm sorry.
Yes, you said that you looked at the Albert house all the way to the door.
Correct.
Do you have a memory of looking at any other houses all the way to the door?
Yes.
Okay. Which house had a dumpster in front of it?
I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to a dumpster. Dumpster wouldn't be in the front yard.
Are you sure on your route there was no dumpsters in anybody's front yard?
I can tell you there was a dumpster this week.
No. I'm more interested in January 29, 2020.
I can't answer to that. I don't remember.
A dumpster, a 15 by 20 foot dumpster, that would be bigger than a man's body, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would be.
And so you have no really specific memory of the other homes in the neighborhood that night?
I mean, I looked. I saw. I didn't see a dumpster. That would have definitely stuck out.
Okay. You said you had vision as far as your eyes could see.
Correct.
What does that mean?
Means if there were, my eyes were, as long as they're open, I can see as far as they will let me see.
Is that dependent on lighting conditions, darkness, snow?
Correct.
That night, did you have any difficulty paying attention or driving?
I did not.
Did you have a small accident that night?
I did.
Okay, what did you hit?
I hit a portable basketball net.
Was that part because of the weather conditions? You didn't have a good opportunity to see it?
No. I definitely saw it and just did not judge enough.
You said that you went up and down the road a couple of times. When you were asked to describe the car that you said you saw, when you first spoke to the defendant's private investigator, you didn't give any detail about the type of car, did you?
I told her it was a Ford Edge.
Okay. When you first spoke to the investigator, you used the words Ford Edge?
I did.
Did they bring you to a parking lot at some point?
They did.
And when they brought you to a parking lot, did they have you go out in the parking lot and look at a Ford Edge?
They did.
And when they had you go out and look at the Ford Edge, did they have you identify that as the type of car?
Yes, they did.
And when you did that, how many cars were in the parking lot?
We had a hockey game, so there were several, at least 100, 150.
Who pointed you to the Ford Edge?
I pointed to it.
Did the investigator take you to the Ford Edge?
No, he did not.
It was just an open parking lot, and he asked you to look around to see if there happened to be a similar car?
No, I told him a Ford Edge. He wanted to make sure I knew what a Ford Edge looked like. I pointed to the Ford Edge, and he was satisfied.
So after you said a Ford Edge, he brought you to a parking lot to point out a car?
We were at my place of business. We just walked out the door.
Where was that?
At the Metropolis ice rink.
The rink?
Ice rink, yes.
Did you then meet the investigator later on at a school?
Yes, I did.
And who did you meet at the school?
I met Paul again.
And what was the purpose of that?
He wanted to go through my route.
You want to go through your route.
Correct.
And then, did you choose to meet at the school?
I did.
You did?
I did.
And why did you choose the school?
It was an easier landmark for the gentleman to get to, and it was minutes from my route.
Did you know that former Trooper Proctor's sister worked there?
I had no idea.
You said last year that when you went by Fairview, did you say that you would buy your final pass at 5:30 a.m.?
No.
Okay. May I approach?
Yes.
Sir, when you have contacts, you also wear reading glasses?
Yes. I can't read things up close.
Understood. This is trial testimony, testimony from June 21st, 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And you were asked do you recall what time it was that you wound up back on Fairview? You said, I don't honestly recall what specific time. Yes?
Yes.
And then you were asked, sure. Approximately, if it was 3:15 to 3:30, that second time, what would be your best estimate of the time when you came back? And what did you say?
Say about 5:30.
And so even last year, you were having some difficulty remembering the times, right?
Objection.
System.
Were you having difficulty last year remembering the times that you were on Fairview?
No.
When you said you were on Fairview last year at 5:30, you didn't see anything on the Albert front lawn at 5:30 a.m.?
I wasn't on Fairview at 5:30 a.m.
Okay. Were you asked last year about your travels on Fairview?
Yes.
Okay. When you asked about, you recall, was time you wound up on Fairview, and you said you didn't remember. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
And is that true testimony?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so you had some difficulties in your memory of when you were on Fairview when you testified last year. Isn't that fair to say?
No, it's not fair.
And then you were asked approximately if it was 3:15 to 3:30 the second time, what time did you come back?
And I said, if I were to guess, I said 45 minutes later.
Did you say, I would say, if I had to say, it would have been 5:30 up Fairview?
That time was incorrect. It was 6:15. I couldn't go down any further due to the police presence.
So your testimony last year, you understandably made a mistake about the time, correct?
I did.
And it's true, isn't it, that you really have somewhat foggy memory about the times.
It is not.
That time of 5:30 is very different than the time you told the agents when you met them. I'm sorry, the law enforcement officials that weren't from Canton or the state police. That was very different than when you told them 3 to 3:30.
Very different.
And it's different than the 3:30 to 4 timeline that you gave the defense private investigator the first time you spoke to them. Correct?
Correct.
And it's different than what you told the jury today, that it was 6:15.
It's different, but it's not.
When you plowed that night, did you have any reason to look for somebody who was lying on the side of a yard?
No.
Did you have any expectation somebody would be lying helpless on the side of the yard that night?
No.
If you had seen somebody, certainly you would have helped.
Correct.
When you said that, when the private investigator asked you where you were when you said you saw the Ford Edge, are you saying that you didn't tell the private investigator that you were on Cedar?
I don't remember telling him I was on Cedar Crest. I do remember telling him that I had turned onto Fairview and saw the vehicle.
Cedar Crest in a storm at night is quite a distance from the flagpole at Fairview, isn't it?
No,
About 300 feet?
roughly.
Difficult to see under those conditions?
No.
Could we have Exhibit 71, Stream 0, at about 6:17 a.m., please?
Okay.
Could you stop it there? Do you see that street light?
I do?
Okay. At the end of that road, past the street light, is Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
Is that a fair depiction of the elements that night around that time?
Yes.
And in this case, there's further illumination with the car that's facing us?
Correct.
That wasn't there, was it?
Correct.
You said after you saw law enforcement, did you come down Fairview after you saw law enforcement?
I was on Fairview already when I saw the law enforcement.
Did you drive by Cedar Crest again to go back and forth and watch what was going on, or did you go on your route?
I went on my route, which included Cedar Crest.
Did you keep driving by because you wanted to watch, or did you just leave and do your regular route?
I went and did my regular route.
Could I have 6:19:27, please? And could you play it? If you could back up a little before 6:19:27. Is that weather consistent with what it looked like to you?
Yes.
Is that you there?
I don't know if that's me. Yes, that's me. That is me.
Could we go to 6:32:45, please? Is that you again?
That one, I can't tell if that was me again.
Could we go to 6:35:14, please? Was that you?
I don't see it. I don't see the truck. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Could we go back to 6:35:12?
That looks like to be a pickup truck. That does not look like my truck.
6:37:45, please. And that's you again, right?
Again, I can't tell you for sure if that was me.
Those were not your red and orange lights consistent with the earlier ones that went by?
What I saw the first time was the reflecting tape off the body of my truck.
Can we go to
I have
7?
a plow guy that is a contractor that we work tandem together.
And was he out there that night as well, going by Fairview?
Correct.
Okay. Did you ever tell the private investigator about him?
Yes, I did.
7 o'clock, 22 seconds, please. Is that you, sir?
I can't say for sure.
7:15, 45 seconds, please. Do you recognize that plow?
I do not.
7:19 and 55 seconds, please. Was that you, sir?
That was me.
How long does your route take?
It's hard to say. I mean, as long as it's on, it can take as long as it takes.
Well, if you're going to do a pass, how long does an entire pass take?
If I were to do from Cedar Crest to the end, it would take probably 10 minutes. If I were to do the entire route, I'm not cleaning up. I'm just giving it a pass so people can get through. It takes about 3 hours. Could take 4 hours.
When you mentioned Brian Albert on your direct examination, had you talked to the defense about Brian Albert in your preparation for testimony?
No.
You knew some of the Albert family?
I know the entire Albert family.
And you know Brian Albert as a police officer?
Yes, I do.
Why is it that 3 times in your direct testimony you characterized him as a first responder?
Because he's a police officer. They're first responders.
Did anybody ever suggest to you to use the terms or the phrases first responder when you were describing Brian Albert?
No one did. Those are my words.
Since your trial testimony last year, have you received any more focusing or targeting of harassment?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Brennan.
Since last year when you testified, have you received any recent aggression towards you for testifying?
No.
Have you had any further focus or problems?
No.
Objection. I move this one further objection.
I'll strike that.
I have no further questions.
Very briefly, sir. You were asked by Mr. Brennan about whether you saw a dumpster that night. Do you recall that line of questioning?
I do.
In the aftermath of January 29th of 2022, was a dumpster all over the news for the next 3.5 years?
Not that I'm aware of.
You were asked about going through your route with the defense investigator and giving a statement to the defense investigator.
Yes.
How soon after January 29th of 2022 was that?
2 weeks.
Were the events fresh in your mind at that time?
Yes.
Finally, actually not finally, I've got 2 more points, but they're both brief. You had mentioned that night you actually misjudged and hit a net.
Yes.
Can you describe the basketball apparatus that, and I'm going to ask you what part of it you hit, but describe what that looks like.
It's got a base with wheels on it. It's portable, so you can move it in and out. And it's got the basketball frame, and it's got the backboard and then rim.
Okay. So this is not a pole that was cemented into the ground.
Correct.
But perhaps we're all familiar with it, the black base that maybe you put sandbags on,
Correct.
that type of thing to keep it in place, but it does have wheels?
Correct.
All right. And you mentioned the net. The net is the rope netting that comes down, correct?
Correct.
There's also a hoop that keeps the net in place?
Yes.
And the pole?
Correct.
And the base?
Correct.
Of all those things, what part did your franking truck actually catch?
It caught the net in the little bit part of the frame, of the frame where the net was.
Something that you saw from the beginning, you just misjudged the distance.
Correct.
All right, now, finally, with regard to the 5:30 testimony that you gave last year,
Yes.
did you also testify that the last pass that you tried to make when the police were blocking the scene was about 3 hours after that 3:30 second up and down?
Yes.
So why is it last year that you testified that it was 3 hours later, but you came up with the time of 5:30 as the final time?
As he's asking me these questions, I'm trying to do the math in my head. I'm sorry, math is not my strong suit.
What time was it when you made that final pass, sir?
6:15. 6:15, 6:30.
I have nothing further.
You mentioned you're trying to do the math in your head. There is no reason why you would specifically remember certain times on each pass other than trying to remember and give an accounting, right?
Could you rephrase that, please?
Sure. You don't have your watch out on a certain schedule that you have to pass a certain street at a certain time.
Correct.
You weren't marking your times to some event when you were driving up and down the street that night, were you?
No.
So you're trying to go back with your memory and piece it together the best you can.
Correct.
And that's why you're giving estimates, yes?
Correct.
When you spoke to those law enforcement officials, not Canton, not state police, and you said at 3 o'clock you saw first responder vehicles, that was based on your memory, wasn't it?
Objection.
It was based on your memory.
Not at 3:30.
Right. Do you know that there was a car similar to a Ford Edge in front of 34 Fairview around 6 a.m. that morning?
I wasn't able to get in front of Fairview Drive, 34 Fairview, at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Have you ever met Kerry Roberts before?
I have not.
Counsel just asked you if there was a lot of media about this case, and you said that there was. Did he just ask you a question about whether there was a lot of attention on this case?
Objection.
Did he just talk to you about everything that happened after this case, all the attention on this case?
Objection.
You remember his question about all the attention after this case?
He asked specifically a question about the dumpsters.
And he said that wasn't subject to a lot of attention, was it?
Correct.
Right. But this case was.
The case itself, yes.
The people involved in this case were subject to a lot of attention.
Correct.
And you spoke to the defense investigator after this case as far as attention is concerned. You remember speaking to the investigator on June 5th, 2023.
Yes.
And do you know, coincidentally, that is the day that the blogger put out the articles on you, accusing you of not doing the right thing?
Sister.
May I approach?
Yes.
Showing you a document. Let's take a look at that document. What day is that document dated?
June 5th, 2023.
Without reading it, that document talks about you.
Correct.
And your friends and people in the community talked to you about this article, didn't they?
Not specifically this article, but they were sending me stuff that were being printed about me, yes.
Why don't you take a little look at what's said and you can tell us whether that's the same type of information that was being conveyed to you through intermediaries.
Can you ask that question again, please?
Okay, sir. Was this some of the kind of attention that you were receiving on June 5th after you spoke to the defense investigator?
Yes.
Like, come side by.
Okay, folks, do you understand what's happening here? This is just absolutely, we're at an absolutely huge moment, folks. Do you understand what's happening? With that, hello, Peggy O'Keefe. Oh my goodness, the shot is on Aiden. Oh my goodness, Aiden Kearney is in the courtroom. Do you understand what Hank Brennan is moving to do right now, ladies and gentlemen? Hank Brennan is moving to introduce Aiden Kearney's blog that he wrote about Brian Lucky Loughran. Now here, do you see the questions Hank Brennan is asking? My name is Grant Smith Ellis, by the way, but do you hear the questions that Hank Brennan is asking? Hank Brennan is basically saying to Lucky, you have to have some kind of knowledge that the article was written for the article to get introduced through this witness. So what Brennan has a larger play here. Remember, he just submitted his model consciousness of guilt jury instruction, ladies and gentlemen, related to witness intimidation. Lucky is a witness. Oh my goodness, Brennan is using Aiden's intimidation of Lucky, and he's going to lay foundation, introduce Aiden's article, and then that's going to be his consciousness of guilt evidence, partially. There's going to be more, I'm sure, against Karen. Oh, this is so bad. It was the same day that Lucky met with Karen's investigators. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Folks, you have to understand the wider context here. This is absolutely incredible. These are absolutely incredible moments in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed retrial. Hank Brennan, it's a multi-layered thing going on here. For evidentiary purposes, Hank Brennan has to establish that Lucky Loughran either knew this article existed or was told about something in it. Lucky just said yes. Hank Brennan got exactly what he wanted, which is why Hank Brennan asked for a sidebar. This is coming in. This is coming in. You don't understand. Hank Brennan may be moving for the consciousness of guilt instruction right now. That's enough. Oh goodness, we're going into our morning break. Hold on. I can't believe this has happened, ladies and gentlemen. This is just stunning. Hank Brennan has just used Aiden Kearney against Karen Reed vis-a-vis Brian Lucky Loughran. And Hank Brennan got Loughran to admit he knew about the content, ladies and gentlemen, of the text messages. This is incredible. Of the article that Aiden wrote about Lucky. This is simply incredible.
All rise for the court, please.
All right. We're going to go into morning recess. Listen, this is incredible. This is just absolutely incredible scenes, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. I'm going to come back on the screen for you right now. I don't even have to hold my microphone to do the typing anymore. Just incredible. As we head into morning recess, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Lucky Loughran met with the... Oh, my goodness. Brian Lucky Loughran met with the defense and met with a Karen Reed defense investigator the same day that Aiden Turtleboy Kearney ran an article about Lucky. Oh, wait a minute. We might be coming back. Hold on. We might just be having an argument outside the presence. Stay with me. Stay with me, little towels. If something happens, you'll be the first to see it. You saw how quickly we jumped from screen to screen. We're not sure if we're heading into recess. We might have a motion argument. There's a long sidebar going on. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, historic scenes. Brian Lucky Loughran met with a Karen Reed defense investigator the same day that Aiden Turtleboy Keeney ran an article about Lucky. Hank Brennan then got Lucky to admit he knew about
thank you so much for watching the Karen Reed trial with
not the
us,
time.
but I wanted to tell you guys about something.
Ladies and gentlemen, Hank Brennan then got Lucky to admit he knew about Lucky knew about the content of that article. Brennan is moving for a consciousness of guilt instruction, and this was the foundation. Yep, ladies and gentlemen, mark my words. Big moments. Big moments. Big as they get, ladies and gentlemen. Forget the Franken truck. This is bigger than the Franken truck, ladies and gentlemen. This is Hank Brennan putting on an absolute masterclass. We are at sidebar and morning recess. We don't know if we're actually going to morning recess, ladies and gentlemen, because we are at sidebar. Yes, I repeat, we should be coming out of sidebar, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, the Karen cam is still active. That means that the lawyers aren't actually going to leave the courtroom. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. We are monitoring intently. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, the Karen cam is still live, which means the lawyers are still at sidebar. This is a very big moment. Very big moment in the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed retrial. It has implications for Hank Brennan's consciousness of guilt play, ladies and gentlemen. It has implications in so many ways. This is not horse racing announcer Towel talking to you right now. This is reporter Towel talking to you right now. This is consciousness of guilt made manifest, ladies and gentlemen. Hank Brennan laid the evidentiary foundation. Lucky never should have admitted to knowing about that article. By admitting to knowing about the content of that article, he has put himself in an absolutely untenable position, ladies and gentlemen. Lucky has now put himself in the position whereby this article comes in as evidence. Hank Brennan's going to move for it to be admitted as evidence. I'm sure that's what the sidebar is about. And the larger point, ladies and gentlemen, let me just be clear here. The larger point is that Hank Brennan's going to move for the consciousness of guilt instruction. It's a model jury instruction that allows Hank Brennan to tell, or Judge Canoni to tell jurors that Karen's and Aiden's intimidation of witnesses should be used as evidence of Karen's consciousness of guilt. You have to lay an evidentiary foundation. Turtle Boy's articles have now come in to the Karen Reed and John O'Keefe trial through witness Brian Lucky Loughran. It was perfect. I didn't see it coming. It's the kind of thing that you wait for. It's a sublime moment of legal genius. You watch trials for stuff like this. This is so brilliant by Hank Brennan. You have to understand the brilliance of this man. He went in there with a schema. He had a cross that was set up into two sections. He was going to accomplish two very specific goals. One, he was going to lay the evidentiary foundation for Turtle Boy's article about Lucky for the purposes of Brennan's consciousness of guilt instruction about Karen. That in itself, mind-blowing, brilliant, genius, dynamic, advanced trial strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, but then Hank Brennan had the other part of his cross, and you could see it was designed in two sections. It was beautiful. It was easy to understand. Every question had a purpose. And then Hank Brennan went out there and he said, Brian Lucky Loughran, you never saw a car at 2:30 or 3:30, and you didn't see police tape around then either, did you? You actually saw the car at around 5, and you saw the police tape around 6:30. And Lucky said yes. So Hank Brennan, that is so brilliant. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, I am a towel who studies and analyzes courtrooms. I've watched 50,000 hours of courtroom trials in multiple states across the United States. I've watched federal trials. I have never seen a masterclass in cross like that. It's not like masterclass in that it's funny or that Hank Brennan was making a light point. There was two very important things Hank Brennan wanted to accomplish with that cross. He needed Brian Lucky Loughran to testify about how Brian Lucky Loughran had personal knowledge about the content of Turtle Boy's article, even if he didn't read it directly. That gives Brennan the evidentiary foundation to introduce the article, which you need to do if you want to get a consciousness of guilt instruction against Karen. Oh my God, just beautiful. You saw it, ladies and gentlemen. You are watching an artist at work in Hank Brennan. This man may as well be Michelangelo on a street corner in Rome, walking into the Vatican and painting the Sistine Chapel. I cannot put into words how much skill it takes to have two very specific objectives in a cross, have it function over the course of 40 minutes and accomplish both of those goals, and then have it crescendo where you ask for a sidebar because you got the witness to say yes and get in evidence that you need for your consciousness of guilt motion as to the content of Turtle Boy's article. Ladies and gentlemen, study it. what you just saw from Hank Brennan could be taught for 100 years in law school. You can replicate that over and over, obviously in form and not content, over and over and over and over and over again. Study every question, study every single element of it. Think about what was in Hank Brennan's mind when he went into that cross, what two objectives he wanted to accomplish, what he had written down in his schema. And then analyze it ex post facto, and you will find that that human being just went in there and single-handedly showed the entire American legal profession how to do a cross. Every single human being in this country who studies or otherwise engages in the practice of law could watch that cross and learn something. Stunning. 2 points. You don't need to belabor things. You don't need to be obtuse. You don't need to be superfluous. You go in there, you have 2 objectives, you accomplish them, you check the list, and you end with a sidebar because you got the evidentiary foundation for your consciousness of guilt argument. Brilliant. And you eviscerated Lucky's credibility with his own testimony, pointing out and impeaching him at every turn. Brilliant. Brilliant. I would have given Hank a fist bump, ladies and gentlemen. Let me just tell you right now, you will never, ever, ever, ever. This wasn't one of those historic moments where it was like, I can't believe Alan Jackson let a defense witness do that, like with Kelly Devers. No, you'll never see in real time ever again a cross that was that succinct. At least, there could be bigger crosses, more important crosses, but in terms of presentation, efficacy of implementation, achieving his objectives, and doing it in a way that was methodical, compassionate, and simultaneously intellectually and legally ruthless, you have just seen perhaps the perfect cross. If we were judging the Olympics and I was doing the double bars and I was judging the double bars, this would be like that time that person used her belly to flip backwards around the bars, which is now a banned move. I would give her or Hank Brennan, in either case, a 10. Ladies and gentlemen, 100%, a 10 out of 10, nailed it. Technical proficiency, legal skills, orational skills, presence, command of the facts, command of the law, command of the 2 strategic objectives he wanted to accomplish. Hank Brennan has just single-handedly, ladies and gentlemen, put on a clinic in how to do a cross-examination with everything on the line, not directly related to Brian Lucky Loughran, but everything on the line in terms of making that play. You're going to move to introduce those Turtle Boy articles. You're going to do it. You better do it right. You better do it exactly like that. The witness needs to have personal knowledge, some kind, even if it's from a community or family member. Brennan's using those words on purpose because in the law, I'm not a lawyer, none of this is legal advice. If the witness has some kind of personal knowledge of the document you hand them and you say, were you made aware of something in here? And they say yes, which is exactly the moment that Brennan's cross ended and we went to sidebar as we're still there right now. And I'm telling you, this is a heated discussion because every single party involved knows what Brennan just did if they're a lawyer, and they know exactly how important this is because, yes, decimating Lucky's credibility, which Lucky did on his own because he was like, yes, I can read the board, David Yannetti, and then Lucky was like, yeah, sorry, I can't read everything on the board. That was not good. And then Lucky, of course, changed his story on direct, and then Brennan had him up on cross being like, oh, yeah, actually, no, I didn't see a car until 5, and I didn't see the police till after 6. It was humiliating. But that wasn't the big thing. That's not why we were at sidebar. That wouldn't cause a big bump in the trial, or even this isn't a bump, a big moment. The big moment was, and I knew what Brennan was doing. I was like, oh, please, Lucky, please be stupid enough to say that your family or friends told you about the content of what you're reading right now. Because if you say yes to that question, oh, you poor man, you don't understand, Karen's going to prison. Like, I'm telling you, Karen's going to prison. I was watching, Hank had tried it a little bit earlier. It's how he knew he was being really subtle. He had tried earlier, and he basically he got him there. And then Hank circled back around on the question, and you could tell it all led up to that moment, ladies and gentlemen, just before that lunch break, when Hank Brennan said to Brian Lucky Loughran, did your friends or community members make you aware of the fact that this article was about you? I mean, Turtle Boy was just aghast. The gallery was aghast. It was stunning. Brilliance, ladies and gentlemen, a maneuver no one saw coming. Only Hank Brennan could pull something off like that. Harvard Yard. Oh, goodness, so we are going to go into break. Harvard Yard, God bless you, friend. Hank's genius exposed to the world for the world to see. Lucky sends Karen to prison. Outstanding. Lawyers talking right now around the world. Bye, Karen. Bye, Karen. Get in the van, Karen. Genius lawyering. We are not worthy. We are not worthy of Hank Brennan. ladies and gentlemen, a clinic, a masterclass, a genius level demonstration of American lawyering by Hank, Hank, you can call me Hank Brennan. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, you don't understand. You don't understand how brilliant that was. We are going to rewatch the moment. Oh, sorry. The microphone's very sensitive and I knocked it. We are going to rewatch the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to rewatch it right now. I tell you, folks, it is a stunning moment in the history of American trials. We saw it. We saw Hank Brennan himself put on a simple masterclass, ladies and gentlemen. No, it was not in any sense of the imagination just sort of a big moment. It was the moment. Brian Lucky Loughran being the vehicle for the evidentiary foundation to be established so that we don't know yet, Rob. But Brian, listen, this is bigger than anything that could have possibly happened. No one saw this coming. The defense wasn't ready for it. Turtle Boy wasn't ready for it. And Lucky, by saying yes to that question, ladies and gentlemen, right before the end of that cross, ended Karen Reed's hopes. That was everything. As a lawyer, as someone who studies the law, I'm not a lawyer. I study the law. But if you're a lawyer watching this case, if you study the law, you watch this case. I don't care if you're a trial watcher and you watch this case. You had to have sensed the impact of that moment. But for a person who's understanding the way the delicate interplay of the rules of evidence are functioning in real time, everything depends on Brian Lucky Loughran's answer to the question, did your family and friends make you aware of the content of this article? As soon as he said yes, I knew it was over. You cannot, if you say yes to that question, you may not realize it because it's a very technical legal maneuver, but if you say yes, you've established the foundation to introduce that evidence. And Hank Brennan doesn't want the evidence it's more about than just Lucky and Turtle Boy. Hank Brennan needs that evidence because you can only get a consciousness of guilt instruction if there's evidence related to it. And the evidence that just came in, it's too late. He said yes, it's coming in. That's what the sidebar was about. Brilliant American lawyering, a masterclass, something we have never seen before in this trial. The introduction of that kind of surprise evidence, I knew it was coming. Someone predicted it. They were posting the Turtle Boy article in the chat, and I didn't say anything, but I was saying, oh yeah, I pinned it at one point. I was like, oh no. Watch what Hank Brennan's going to do. He doesn't need the picture of Lucky with the Karen Reed supporters. No. Watch. And Hank Brennan did it. He had that Turtle Boy article printed out. He had to get Lucky to say he didn't either remember it or whatever, because then you can refresh recollection. So do you understand? This is all Hank had like 40 steps in this plan. I'm reading his mind. Of course, he doesn't talk to anyone. But look, I watched it play out. Hank had to trip Lucky up and get Lucky to be like, oh, I didn't know about the Turtle Boy article. Or I don't know what it said. Oh, well, did you know in the article that you were mentioned? No, I didn't read it. Oh, well, would it help you to refresh your recollection? As soon as Hank said, would it help you to refresh your recollection if I would walk up and show you the article? Oh, I saw where it was going, because I was like, he's going to bootstrap it in. So he refreshes Lucky's recollection. Now, Lucky did do one thing that was smart, and I was like, oh no, Hank, how are you going to play this chess move? Brendan was like, did you read this article? Because that would have been enough, direct knowledge of the article. And Lucky was like, no, I just heard things that my family and friends and community sent me, and then Lucky screwed up. Lucky said, then they sent me parts of it. Or parts of what was said about me. And Hank was like, oh, well, could you just one more time reread the document? I knew exactly what he was doing. Could you take, a little time and just reread that? Oh, goodness, I knew it. Like a person who studies trial practice knows that a lawyer acting in that way is holding back their excitement. And so I'm like, oh, no, Lucky, no, he's gotcha. And Brendan that was like, please, that was child's play for Brendan, and everyone knew it. But I was like, Brendan, you got him. He's going to screw up. There's no way he's going to, and Brendan just had to delicately position it to be like, well, Lucky, so now that you've read that, your family and community members, they mentioned, and David Yannetti and Alan and Jackson had to be literally grimacing at this. They were like, Brendan was like, did you, is that roughly, was that part of what they sent you? And Lucky looks down. Oh, I can't believe he said yes. And then he said yes. The second Lucky said yes, you could tell Brendan was like, close the book. I got what I wanted. It was brilliant. Oh my goodness, I could rewatch it a million times, and we will at some point. We'll watch the full thing later. We have an interview with John DePetro at 2. Court's coming back into session probably in under 20 minutes because it's a half day. Ladies and gentlemen, that is something. It was brilliant. Because Hank can't predict how that's going to play out. You have your flow chart you need to follow. You need to get lucky to do the recorded recollection. You need to get lucky to get the personal knowledge, and then you need to move to introduce. Okay, that seems easy, but it's not. Because the witness can be slippery and be like, I didn't read it. And if Lucky was smart, all he had to say was, I don't remember what my family and friends sent me. If he, listen, if Lucky had said in response to Hank's question about that document, I don't remember what my family and friends sent me, Hank would have been frustrated and he would have kept trying, but that would have been the moment, okay? And Lucky would have somehow, although he wouldn't have realized it, he would have bested Hank. But Lucky did something that, and Hank, oh my goodness, this was literally like a law professor up against a plow truck driver. Okay, I'm not exaggerating. You could have had it's unfair because the intellectual comparison, it's like comparing like someone who's like a trained like NBA athlete to like someone who plays pickup basketball on Sunday. Like Hank just casually leaning back and like shooting threes. The person who plays pickup basketball it would be like Dwight Howard casually shooting threes over a street ball player. It wouldn't even be funny. So Hank Brennan was basically doing that, but you still have to be very delicate with it because you know you're going to get Lucky to say something that you want, but you can't make it obvious to Lucky that you want him to answer a certain way, or he's going to pick up on your vibe as the cross-examining attorney, and he's not going to give you what you want. So Hank was very smooth about it. He was just like, your family and friends, you mentioned they told you stuff. And if Lucky had said it wasn't this article or better yet, I don't remember, things would have been fine. But the reason the bombshell dropped, the reason the whole Karen Reed case has just changed, this woman is going to prison, I'm telling you now, is because Lucky said, yes, that was the article my friend sent me. That's it. That's all Hank needed. You saw Hank literally may as well have closed his book, which he basically did, and was like, thank you, I need a sidebar, Your Honor. Because he got what he wanted. He got exactly what he wanted. He got it exactly the way he wanted. You turned in at exactly the best time, ladies and gentlemen. That was an absolute moment. I mean, it was a moment. He is in the... right, you could have... Stacey, it's a little... No, not really, because you shouldn't do that. It could cause a mistrial. Hank did it exactly how he did one needed to, and then Aidan Kearney got that camera shot establishing right at the end. Hank Brennan, that was brilliant. Brilliant. You'll never see anything like it again. Brilliant. I mean, you'll see other crosses like that, but you will never in your life see a cross truly like that ever again. Greatest thing I've ever seen. Hands down. I mean, so simple. But simple is good when you're crossing. That's why I didn't like Bob Alessi's crosses. You don't need convoluted 6-hour discussions on cross. Simple is good. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. And that's exactly what Hank Brennan did. He kept it simple, and he knocked it out of the park. And I'll tell you right now, there are lawyers around the country right now who will be sitting around in freaking astonishment that Hank Brennan, in a 2-section cross, managed to do that. It was what Hank Brennan, what any lawyer would do, what most lawyers would do, and what Adam Lally did correctly during the first trial is just impeach Lucky's credibility on the timing and move on. Like, make it clear to the jury this guy is an non-credible, unreliable witness. But no, Hank Brennan, what makes Hank Brennan different, the spice of life that you get with Hank Brennan, is Hank Brennan's the type of lawyer who would say, wait a minute, didn't Turtle Boy write an article about this guy? And wasn't that article written on like the same day Lucky met with the defense investigator? Well, if we're going to move for consciousness of guilt under the theory of witness intimidation, we need some evidence, right? So no one's going to see it coming if we ask Lucky if he knew about this article. And that gets you the evidentiary foundation to make one of the multiple evidentiary foundations to make your consciousness of guilt argument. That is brilliant. Brilliant. Just unbelievably brilliant. I didn't think of it. No, I don't. I guarantee you no one else. There are a few people in the comments who I think saw where it was going. The picture of Lucky with the FKR, whatever. People kind of sensed Hank Brennan was leading to something. But when I heard that man start talking about that Turtle Boy article, it took me, I think you can look at my Twitter feed, it took me about 3 tweets until I said, oh my God, I got it. Hank Brennan is laying an evidentiary foundation for the consciousness of guilt via witness intimidation argument in real time through Brian Lucky Loughran. Lucky's the weakest witness that the defense is going to have. The guy doesn't know how to answer our questions on the stand. He is dumb enough to blow the defense's entire case. All Brennan has to do is get him to admit he knew about this article or he read it, and then it comes in, boom, done. Do you see? Like, yes, when I lay it out for you that way, ladies and gentlemen, okay, it makes, it's analytical, it makes sense. But don't think for 1 second, my towel friends, that anyone saw that coming. The defense, David Unetti and Alan Jackson probably realized at the same time that I realized. I mean, it took me, I bet they got it like a few minutes quicker than me. But literally, I guarantee you, David Unetti and Alan Jackson were sitting there like, oh no. And then they were like, we can't stop this. Because if we can't do anything to stop this, it's not a break, or like Brennan had him dead. Brennan had him dead to rights. And then you could, as a defense lawyer, I would have been sitting there like, oh no, Lucky, please just say you don't know what this fucking article, this article is. Please say you don't know what this article is. Please, please. Lucky, please say you don't know what this article is. I would have literally been whispering it to myself. Oh my God, please don't say it. Please say you don't know what this article is. Please say you don't know what this article is. Please say you never had anyone send you this article. Please, please, please. And then as soon as he said the word yes, you could sense it. Brendan was like, I got it. And I'm sure David Unetti and Alan Jackson are just like, oh God, oh no. I'm telling you folks, I'm not missing this read either. I have this read. I have it. I know exactly what just happened there. That was just catastrophic. Just catastrophic for the Karen Reed defense. It cannot be said in any other terms than that was freaking catastrophic. I'm telling you, just brutal. Brutal in every sense of the term, ladies and gentlemen. And how apropos, we're going to get to talk about that with John DePetro after 2 p.m. today, ladies and gentlemen. So court will be back into session here in just a few minutes, and then we'll go until the end of the half day. I'll order my cheeseburger in the next few minutes, and then, ladies and gentlemen, oh goodness, we are going to have ourselves a day talking to John DePetro. I'm going to continue to be a towel. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the numbers. It is still the morning, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to look at those numbers. Reuters, who's hosting a Commerce Secretary event, has about 15.6K, so we're not quite beating Reuters today. But Towel Stream is in the lead again, 11.7K on the X feed, ladies and gentlemen. I repeat, 11.7K. Fox 25, Boston 25, 7.8K, ladies and gentlemen. We're even ahead of the Oversight Committee and Discovering Crypto. Ladies and gentlemen, if we can hold this pace out, we may take Ted Daniels again today. We may go 3-1 up in the series lead. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it is a glorious day to be a towel. My erudite, prescient, lay towel legal analysis is very much coming through. I'm not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice, of course, and I have free hands, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, God bless you, Harvard Yard. It's a fabulous day to be a towel. Towels unite, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being a part of this community, Harvard Yard. My word, ladies and gentlemen, look at that wonderful super towel chat from Harvard Yard. And did you know, since I have 2 hands free now, I can even do things like use my phone while talking simultaneously, and I don't get executive function overload. Oh, Courtney Myers made it rain gift memberships. Oh, goodness. Hold on. Oh, no, hold on. I got to do this. God bless you, Harvard Yard. You are a super towel in every sense of the word, and I'm so honored to have you with us. Super hugs to you. I have to do it quickly because otherwise you can't always comment on a super chat. You have to do it really quick. That's the only reason I wanted to. I could always just talk to Harvard Yard, but needless to say, I appreciate the super towels that are in the chat. And ladies and gentlemen, Courtney Myers has made it rain super towel memberships again. So ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful to have Courtney Myers with us. And if you don't have your super towel membership yet, just one note, please do consider turning on the setting in your YouTube feed. YouTube has clearly been trying to send us a message, which is that it wants to give out more gift memberships, but you need to turn the setting on in your chat. Because if you don't turn the setting on, you are unable to receive the gift membership. It costs you nothing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to buy anything. It just ends after the gift membership ends. But you can't actually get one unless you turn the setting on. I think that's hilarious, actually, but I can see why they do it because they don't want people getting spammed with them. But listen, on this channel, it's very easy to turn on. And why wouldn't you want access to super towel emojis? We literally have an emoji of Chloe the dog in a wig. We have an emoji of the Call Me Hank clip. We are just generally towels here, ladies and gentlemen. Who gave me a Red Bull during morning recess, ladies and gentlemen? I'm not sure if this is good for the world. I used to say if this is good for America. Now there's like 90 countries watching. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's toast. I have a Red Bull. It at least doesn't have sugar in it. Someone should seriously consider the effects of caffeine on Little Towel. I'm pretty sure, and the fact that I now have two hands, I don't think we should allow Towel to have this level of executive functioning. We should have kept a microphone in one of Towel's hands. It kept me somewhat on the level that I was relatable to other humans. Now I'm worried I've just harnessed the power of this brain in an unstoppable format. I mean, it was a great moment for it to happen in the context of Hank Brennan's cross at Brian Lucky Loughran. But oh my word, I didn't know my brain was capable of this level of analytical precision. I didn't know all it took was just not holding a microphone in one of my hands to be able to allow my executive functioning to flourish at its fullest capacity. We talked so much about towels eudaimonia in the ancient Greek, or summum bonum in the Latin, ladies and gentlemen. The greatest good we can live up to is towels. And now I realize it was just a matter of my executive function being limited because I was holding a microphone in one hand and it was distracting my ability to deliver perfect orations. Oh, it is a glorious day to be a towel, ladies and gentlemen. It is a glorious day to be a towel. I can type, tweet, I can drink Red Bull. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so grateful to everyone who helped Little Towel get his microphone. We're going to get a dedicated streaming setup soon. We're going to get Towel new headphones because only one of the ears works. Oh, Little Towels, it is a glorious day. Oh, I think we're getting ready to come back into session. Hold on. Let me check. I don't actually know when the recess ends. I just started talking about how great Hank Brennan is. You don't understand. Ladies and gentlemen, it was so glorious. It was so glorious. I just want to sit here and talk about how glorious Hank Brennan is. I think we should. I'm reading the chat, Jew Drops. What's happening? Oh, okay. Hold on. No stray ends. I'll take a look. Hold on. What Twitter post? There's a lot of Twitter posts. No stray ends. I'm sorry. The chat is going incredibly fast. I don't know. Listen, I wish I could see every single comment sometimes. You have to make a comment again. So, oh, Trumpia Lightning. God bless you, dear friend. Thank you so much. I love the username. I love the profile picture. And I love the laughing little towel pair. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could read all, when there's literally 100 comments in every 30 seconds. If I tried to read them all, I think I would fall behind very quickly. Now, I love all of you very much, and I want to see everything you have to say, but sometimes you just have to post a comment a few times. I think we have got to that point where I simply cannot see everything that's flying by on the screen. It's too many comments. I love you all. I'm trying so hard. Oh, goodness. Please. Listen, we don't repeat what Turtle Boy is saying. Do you understand? That I know that it's newsworthy sometimes if he's being very outrageous, but he's just poisoning the well. What I am interested in is the clip of Turtle Boy apparently threatening Lucky, but I can't find it. Someone said they put it on one of my tweets. I wish there's 100 tweets in the past hour, so we can go through each one. Maybe it's on this one. Is it on the top one? Maybe it's on the top one. I'm trying to play the TV clips. I can't just find them. Oh, I found them. Thank you, No Stray Ants. Okay, here it is. No Stray Ants is a super towel. I found them. Here we go. Here's the first clip. What's this? Okay, here we go.
Lucky. Mr. Lucky. You know who you are, and you know what you did, and you know what you're hiding, and you know what you said, and I know shit, and I know all about you, and you're going to be seeing me, sir, and we're going to have some questions for you. So I highly suggest you reach out to me first before I put this all out there, because we'll see what happens, sir, because I know you're watching this, and you know who I'm talking about, because Brian Albert called you that day. Brian Albert called you a couple times. And I know that is a fact.
Are you out of your mind, Aiden?
Stay tuned with that. But at least Brian Albert has the... I hope he's listening right now.
Are you out of your mind?
I know whatever, you're probably afraid, right? You don't... You don't want to come forward. You fear the Alberts. But you should fear me, like not fear, not like physical fear. But like I said, the Alberts fear me much more than I fear them. Because I have the ability to severely change their lives. And that goes for you too, Stephen. And that goes for you too, Mr. Lucky. We don't have to get into that yet. But I know your friends are gonna send this to you. I just want you to know. You've wanted to keep a low profile for a reason. I get it. I'm not gonna allow it anymore. Just know that. The jig is up. Time's up. You've had the chance to do the right thing. So now you've chosen not to, and now I'm giving you an ultimatum. You need to contact me and do the right thing, and you're going to have a conversation with me, or Brian Albert finds out what you did, and then you can deal with him. I heard he's real friendly. I heard he's real nice. Yeah, you can deal with it. He doesn't know, does he? He doesn't know what you did. He doesn't know what you did, does he, huh? He's going to find out. He's going to find out, and I got proof. So we'll see. Yeah, I'm being intentionally vague. Are
you out of your mind, Aiden? No stray ants. Great find. Let me download these so I can repost them. I'm going to combine them into a single clip. Are you out of your mind, Aiden? Are you absolutely out of your mind? Oh, my dear goodness. I've seen some things in my life, ladies and gentlemen. That's a new one. Oh, dear God. Oh, let's post this right now. Is Lucky still on the stand? Oh, dear God. This is a little much, ladies and gentlemen. This is a little much, even for Little Towel. Oh, you, Aiden, you moron. Why would you do that? Who told you to do that? Why were you just like, oh, this is a good idea. I'm going to make a record of this. It's going to come in against Karen now. Oh, goodness. Ladies and gentlemen, it's over. Signed, sealed, delivered. It's all over now except for the end, ladies and gentlemen. It's all over now except for the end. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's all over now except for the fat turtle singing named Aiden Kearney. Yep, he looked like he was getting a little puffy in the courtroom as that court shot focused in on him. Ladies and gentlemen, oh no, I repeat. Oh no, everything has gone to hell. This is more than the Hindenburg collapsing. It's over. It's done. We are aboard the, where did they sign the peace treaty? I don't think there was there was technically a peace treaty at the end of World War II, at least in Europe. But I think it was more just like the decimated remnants of the Reich being like, okay, we give up. But ladies and gentlemen, it's more like that General Eisenhower, was it? Or it might have been Douglas MacArthur at the end of the Japanese part of the World War II, ladies and gentlemen. It is like that moment. Hank Brennan is walking upon the ship. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the peace ship, which is more of an enforced term of surrender. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the parallels are there. As the Japanese emperor was they literally undeified the Japanese emperor. Hank Brennan has undeified, ladies and gentlemen, Karen Reed. We are now walking on the ships. The terms of surrender are non-negotiable. It is prison for Karen Reed, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, I am an informed, erudite analyst, and that is my opinion. It is prison for Karen Reed. Listen, I would love to try to be able, I'm downloading some of the clips now. I would love to be able to do more for all of you, but we can only do so many things at one time, Little Towels. Now, we are about to be coming back into session as well, which is what we're primarily monitoring for. That was just a glorious, 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 glorious moment. You can't even sum it up. You don't need to sum it up. It'll be the talk of the world. Every headline, every legal commentator, every lay commentator. It will just be a discussion about how Hank Brennan, out of absolutely nowhere, came through and decimated the Karen Reed defense by introducing Aiden Kearney's blogs and threats to Lucky Loughran in the context of a consciousness of guilt play clearly against Karen Reed. Oh, we're coming back into session. Maybe. Did I speak too soon? You see what I mean, though, ladies and gentlemen? We don't just start watching something, and unfortunately, I would love to watch more clips. I know there's lots of clips of that, but I got to focus in on what we're doing. Lisa, keep posting the clips. Don't worry. I will be able to read the chat as soon as we're back into session. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, my multitasking, double-handed towel. I am a... wonderful. Listen, what is Turtle Boy saying, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know what we're looking at. I don't know why it says flip alert, but if that's what's happening, you let us know, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, goodness. This is the moments you want to be here on the John O'Keefe and Karen Reed trial, though. I'll tell you that, ladies and gentlemen. We got the Karen Cam ready for you. We got court up on the screen. We should be coming back into session any minute here. I don't even have to hold a microphone while I'm talking anymore. I'm a liberated towel. I am a free towel on the land. Someone give me a key to the Corporation for the City of London, and someone get me a towel. Also, do not give me Red Bull this early in the morning after I have my other energy drink and a large coffee from Dunkin's. I'm pretty sure it turns me into some kind of super towel. I think I am on my way to northern France. Don't tell the French government. If you tell the French government we're trying to peacefully capture northern France, they are not going to give northern France to me. I'm telling you, the Merovingian kings fought very hard for possession of northern France. I'm going to have to seriously negotiate if the people of northern France are going to give me northern France. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are here. We're being little towels. Oh, goodness, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, Mike, I think local media is going to be covering this. Watch Boston.com, Abby Patkin, watch Christina Rex. You, ladies and gentlemen, keep a close eye on how that moment is covered. We know those prescient commentators watching the trial, like John DePetro, Christina Rex, ladies and gentlemen, and Abby Patkin, they'll be telling you this was the moment Hank Brennan moved on his consciousness of guilt evidentiary foundation. Brian Lucky Loughran being so stupid as to say the word, yes, I know that article about Turtle Boy. Game, set, match, over, call it, declare it. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no coming back from it. Hank Brennan's playing 7 games of chess at the same time. He just moved every single board into checkmate. Down goes Karen Reed, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Grant Smith Ellis, and I do declare that down goeth Karen Reed. We were here for the moment. I was here for the moment. It's not over. It is not in any way, shape, or form fully over, ladies and gentlemen. We are not at a verdict, but I'm telling you, as someone who can somewhat see which way the winds do yet blow, we have arrived at the moment. This is the largest possible climax, culmination, crescendo of Hank Brennan's case, and it came during cross. Hank Brennan picked his spot. Ladies and gentlemen, you pick your spot, you take your shot, and you nail it. And that's what Hank Brennan did in that cross. It wasn't a lengthy cross. It wasn't elaborate. It wasn't technically beautiful. It was technically beautiful in its succinct nature, but it wasn't some drawn-out elaborate thing. It wasn't an unnecessarily didactic exercise. Ladies and gentlemen, it was a dumb witness who was going to open the door for a piece of evidence that Hank Brennan needed for consciousness of guilt, and he was going to be too stupid to not answer the question yes, and that's exactly what Lucky did. I'm sorry to insult him. Should not have been put up there. You should have known better defense. You put a man like that up there with Hank Brennan. Hank Brennan's going to win on every single point, and then he's going to get something out of you, your witness, that you don't expect. I would have told you this ahead of time, defense, and then that was going to be the consciousness of guilt. You could have... I didn't see it coming, but as soon as it started, the questions were coming. I was like, you totally screwed up. You screwed up, Karen Reed defense. Never in a million years should you have put that man like that. Okay, hold on. We are hearing that Turtle may flip in the opinion of Harvard Yard. I would have been calling my attorney at break. Big love, Grant, and all towels watching. All are welcome to become new towels. Yes, Harvard Yard, the super towel themselves, welcoming. We are super towels here. And yes, I think I am of the opinion Aiden Turtleboy Kearney was fishing for a deal the other day. After that article just came in, Karen's chances of convictions, 99%. 99%, folks. I would be fleeing the good ship Free Karen Reed right now. There's going to be nothing left of the good ship Free Karen Reed. And we come back into session on that note. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I am a towel. And I'm here with you. 2 hands free towel. I'm going to get a cheeseburger. We're going to be interviewing John DePetro at 2 p.m. Let's get ready for court to come back into session. I'm sorry I made you watch the fan. I was an excitable towel there. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the Karen Cam is back. Ready your towels. Oh, goodness, the Karen Cam has returned. The horses are at the starting gate. Judge Cannoni has her horse racing official gear on, and I am a horse racing announcer towel. Ladies and gentlemen, ready your towels for the peaceful invasion of northern France, and they're off.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
So I have just a few more questions. When I had mentioned about meeting the defense investigator on June 5th, 2023, I misspoke. It was June 5th, 2024. Does that sound more like it?
Yes.
June 5th, 2024, was that before, shortly before?
Now we're back synced with the law and crime. I think what we're going to do is we're going to go with the law and crime. I just think it's, if it can get live for us. Otherwise, we're going to stick with the Zoom webinar because it seems to be a little bit faster. No, we'll go back to law and crime. Actually, Zoom webinar.
That just showed you a photograph. Is that a fair and accurate depiction of you after your last testimony?
Yes.
Reflecting you now being embraced rather than attacked?
Yes.
Could we show the photo, please, Ms. Gilman? Court permission.
Yes.
And that's you, Mr. Loughran?
Yes.
Take that down, please. Thank you for your time.